Oh, what's he talking about? Men have all the power. Well, actually, women own more than half the wealth in America, if you look into the facts, because they're always saying women make less than men. Well, look, I believe everybody should be making plenty, and it does. It, like I said, minimum wage could be 50 cents an hour. So it's just numbers. It's a numbers game. But I would say this about women. Just guys, always remember this, that women could literally extinct the species. That is the power of a woman. Can men do that? It's a lot different, isn't it? I mean, we've got sperm banks everywhere, so even if women say, I don't want anything to do with a man, they could just go to a sperm bank if they needed to continue existence, human creation. Can men do that? Men can't do that. And if women say, well, I'm not even having sex anymore, I'm extincting the species. There's not a damn thing men could do. We're turtles on a shell. Rape is illegal, as it should be. We're not animals. We know better. Treat others the way you want to be treated, saith the Lord. I mean, we're not, that's, other animals can do it, but we can't. And so that's just the way it is, the way it should be. So women have power, vastly more power than men. It's the way God wanted it. Like I've said, I do believe God originally was a male figure, and the light bulb went off. He had an epiphany. He said, I'm going to make this woman a counterpart, and it's going to be an awesome thing. I can see it now. And he did. It came out just like he wanted. I'm going to give her more power. That's what I want. I want to be submissive to her. I want to be deferent to her. And that's the way it is today. And by the way, Lauren, if you happen to be listening, I still expect a date. No, I don't expect it, but I'd still like it. But it's cool. I totally get it. Who am I to expect to get the girl of my dreams? In my case, literally, and you know what I mean. Say hi to Joe, and I hope you guys had a great Christmas. I did. Like I said, I went down to the Jesus Center, but there was just a dozen people. I gave out a few bucks, and it felt good. And there was one guy there that was hostile to me because I came kind of a little preachy, and he didn't want to hear it. Not in a good mood, likely. It could be on drugs, coming down off drugs. I don't know. But you got to watch your back around some of these people. But, I always have to remind others and myself that they're not criminals. Remember, if these were criminals, these people that are out in the cold, that have been being treated like animals, they're being neglected, worse than animals. Because they tell people, bring your pets in. The weather's too cold. I mean, it was down just about freezing right here last night. So they're not criminals. If they were, they'd be safely ensconced behind bars, getting 3 hots and a cot, at a cost of what, $100,000 a year here in California per inmate per year. And if they're a high risk, high security inmate, it's going to cost we the people. It's going to cost. We're going to be paying $500,000, $500,000 per year per inmate for high security, high risk. Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it. So if we could circumvent crime, a lot of it, because the vast majority of crime is being committed by people that are desperate, destitute people, scared, insecure people, weak links in the chain of humanity. They're you and I. They're Jesus Christ, the least of men, whoever you see them of. But they do something stupid, rob a bank or convenience store, blow some clerk's head off for a few bucks. So if we had a basic universal income, I mean, that wouldn't be an issue. See crime plummet. It's just duh. Obviously, child gets why, the rhyme and reason. When I teach about supply and demand, I try to teach. In a civilized society, I teach, things should get cheaper because we, civilized society, as a family, easier and easier methods to produce all the things we want and need. So you understand, unless there's a disruption of the supply chain, things continue to get cheaper and cheaper until it's a nominal fee. As your money's worth so much, you only need a little bit of it. That's why minimum wage could be 50 cents an hour today, but be worth more than that $1.25 in the 60s. That would be progress. That would be true capitalism. See what I mean? This took a long time to happen. The frogs in the pot analogy. If you cook them slow enough, they don't have an opportunity to hop out, and they're cooked. That's where we are. And at least, I think the rubber is got to hit the road. I mean, the governor, he's yelling and screaming about homelessness and trying to fix this thing once and for all. So, you know what? I mean, people are starting to figure out this is political beyond Democrat and Republican. These people are conspiring against the welfare of the American people in lockstep. Like the bailout of '08 is a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. That is working against the best interests of the people at large. The regular, everyday, working class, blue collar people. They're stealing from us through currency dilution, currency debasement, currency deworthment, currency devaluing, okay, by raising your cost of living perpetually. And people just accept it. They'd say, oh, well, they need more taxes. Or they need more for this. They're selling less of it. Supply and demand turned on its head. Try to educate people about these things. So basic universal income is something that Martin Luther King Jr. was calling for way back when. Do you know what would happen? I mean, we could cut out the social welfare industrial complex because they get right off the top. I don't know how much the whole industry gets, but $50 billion goes to Section 8 alone to help people pay their cost of housing, their rent, when they can't afford it because they're on a minimum wage job that doesn't pay enough. So they pay a small fraction, maybe 10% of what the rent actually is, and the government, you and me, pay the rest. We subsidize it through the social welfare industrial complex. So I don't know in others' welfare subsidies how much total goes into it, but a lot. And it doesn't help. It's made the problem worse. It's like they're pouring gasoline in a gas tank. They're saying, well, we'll fill it up and it will fix it this way. But all that gas has been doing is eroding. It's got a hole in it, and it's just making the hole worse. And the fat cats get fatter. It's created the wealth imbalance. And the cost of housing keeps soaring. They're taking advantage of that subsidy. I mean, if you just took it away tomorrow, anybody with rudimentary economic understanding would see rents and property values, okay, burdened to somebody else, would plummet overnight if you took away that $50 billion a year subsidy. Obviously, because landlords would be scrambling and say, oh my God, they're taking away. That's been paying 90% of the rent for this person. Oh my God, this is devastating news. Property prices would plummet overnight. I know I'm like I said, educated man. I had my 4-year California real estate license. I distinguished the 4-year from the 2-year. I had to get more education to get the 4-year license. And I got into real estate economics, so I understand exactly the effect that would have. So that'd be a great thing for the poor. That would probably end homelessness overnight. Here isn't that the irony? We're paying this every year without fail, $50 billion. We're pouring into the gas tank and just making the problem worse. It's insanity. I'm a fiscal conservative. People say, oh, you're liberal, Martin Luther King Jr. I'm opposed to him. I won't say I am, but if that's what he believed, that's his values, that's what he was espousing, then I disagree. It's a different opinion about a universal basic income taken with a Tobin tax on Wall Street. I mean, think about it. The Chamber of Commerce ought to get behind it, because think how good it'd be for your local economy. People with all this money now to spend in their economy to get their car fixed or buy this or that, and the next thing, this service, that commodity. And then it goes full circle. It goes right back to Wall Street. It's win-win all the way around. I mean, the pros are many and the cons are very few. I want your taxes lower. If you want my cost of living lower, and understand these are the same thing. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. You got to pay it. It's burden, and so it's a bad thing. You want it lower. You want life to be basically a nominal fee, and if you want to pay extra for luxury items, because we can't supply enough to the public. You know, if we can supply in abundance, then hey, everything stays dirt cheap. Jet airplanes, Ferraris, whatever your little heart desires, Rolex watches, doesn't matter. Luxury yachts, whatever your little heart desires. That could be our reality in very short order if we fight for justice against these tyrants, these snot-nosed, spoiled, bratty children that need parenting. That's a reality we could have. That's what capitalism, true capitalism, supply and demand capitalism would bring us. This dubious warfare industry would fall apart overnight. Okay, in short order, we wouldn't have dubious wars. And I want to distinguish a dubious war from a just war. Hitler, just war, kicking a tyrant's butt. A murderous freak. That's good. American men will pay to go to war like that if they can afford to. Otherwise, they'll do it for free or for a nominal fee to pay their, food shelter, that sort of thing. To distinguish a just war from a dubious war. A dubious war, the indicators are that guys are coming back and killing themselves at a rate of 20 a day. Okay, some 20 a day. Are you kidding me? This didn't happen after the Second World War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the First World, no time in history. That's a dubious war, my friends. That's one we got to scratch our head and say, hey, we need to find out what the hell's going on here. Okay, what happened to these people? Okay, can we really go to these wars that we're so uncertain? What the hell are we doing? What are we trying to do? You understand? Are we really peacemakers, or are we acting as warmongers? Might makes right and throw our weight around and insist that we remain the world's reserve currency, all this nonsensical crap. So it would end that. Okay, people can research for themselves if they want, if it's a just war, and they can go. But we make sure from cradle to grave, everybody's okay. If it's a thus saith the Lord thing, and that's what I'm strongly, unequivocally contending, it's God saying, share the wealth of the planet. Wealth and prosperity need not have a damn thing to do with money. You can wean yourself off money completely. And I've just told you how that would happen. Simple progress. That's it. Demanding just progress, a little iota of progress, day after day, after year, after decade after decade. And we could be free from the tyrants. That's the only way to have universal freedom. It's got to be unconditional freedom, absolute freedom. The word is an absolute term. So we can't be beholden, deferent to these monsters, which we are. We all are forced to feed these monsters and to comply to some degree, okay, just to survive. They charge us this cost of existing. We euphemistically refer to it as cost of living. But the solutions are plentiful. It's a lie from the pit of hell to say we can't solve all our problems. So there's solutions everywhere. Simple, plentiful solutions. But there's all these people that are opposed to it because their industry is wrapped up in the problem. The debt industrial complex, this national debt, with some 25% of people employed in the financial services industry in some capacity, that's a big chunk of people that would be out of work. What am I saying? How am I a threat to anybody? I'm telling you, I want you to have prosperity, but don't think of it in terms of numbers and money. Think of it the way God wants you to think about sharing this planet, having everything, but being willing to offer it to everybody else too. Realizing the system can't break down unless you lose a willing workforce, like Adam Smith pointed out in his book, The Wealth of Nations. And if you're going to read the book, read this edition. It's the only one that's readable, okay? So get this one, a fat boy, pretty one. Labor, a willing workforce, every nation's single greatest asset. After all, everything gets done if you have one. If you don't have one, nothing gets done. You can sit on a mountain, a capital, but if you don't have a willing workforce, nothing gets done. Well, duh. So, yeah. I mean, the stuff Adam Smith wrote when he summed it up in a nutshell, a golden nugget, child can understand. It's so simple. So you can understand all these economic principles I'm talking about. If we're doing useful jobs, we'll be lucky if we're working in this point in history with automation being what it is, the industrial age in full bloom, okay, people not threatened anymore about losing their job to automation or any other reason because the solutions, the problems are being solved and their job used to revolve around the problem. Now that the problem is gone, they need to do something else for society if they want to be fulfilled and gratified in life. Well, they'll be lucky if they get to work 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a week. You understand? So what's the threat? We better find something to do with our time. We'd be a lot more innovative. A lot more. Man, oh man, the stuff we could have, it just boggled mind. You let your imagination run wild, my friends. Everything. I mean, we'll put an end to commuter traffic on the freeway with a universal basic income. We could put an end to all the problems. All these women getting abortions because they're afraid, they're financially insecure. Put an end to all those abortions. Okay? Think of, and let your mind, I mean, those are just a few examples of problems I see that would be solved. Just by ending desperate poverty. The crime plummeting, no need for a social welfare industry. The dubious warfare ended. Okay? The debt industrial complex ended. Okay? All our problems solved. You understand that's what God wants for us. Is that so far-fetched? Is that so hard to believe that God's will for humanity is perfect? It is ideal.